You're listening to Media History Podcast.
where stories echo beyond the headlines.
Okay, imagine this. A war correspondent, right? He's trapped in a besieged European city back in 1870.
Right. Enemy cannons everywhere.
Exactly. And he's got these crucial reports, needs to get them out. But, no phone lines, no reliable messengers. So what does he do?
It sounds impossible.
Well, he packages up his notes
Hmm.
and sends them floating over the enemy lines using tiny, handmade hot air balloons.
Wow. That kind of pioneering, almost absurd determination to get the news out.
Right.
It wasn't just some quirky historical footnote, was it?
Not at all. It really defined the spirit of a newspaper that would become one of the world's most fiercely independent voices, The Guardian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome, everyone, to the Media History Podcast. Today, we're going to trace the dramatic 187-year journey of the paper that used to be called the Manchester Guardian. We'll track how it went from this radical regional weekly, really focused on social reform, to become this globally respected independent news powerhouse.
And our mission today is really to uncover those foundational radical ideas, the sort of key journalistic breakthroughs, and crucially, the unique legal structure that let this organization survive. I mean, think about it. Wars, censorship, the digital revolution,
Right.
and still protect its core independence. For our insights today, we're drawing heavily on a really fantastic historical piece published in the weekly online magazine Reporterzy.info. It details this newspaper's incredible journey.
Okay, so let's unpack this right from the very beginning, because the paper's birth was really steeped in political outrage. The catalyst,
Yeah.
the 1819 Peterloo Massacre.
Precisely, yeah. John Edward Taylor, who was a local cotton merchant but also a journalist, he actually witnessed the cavalry charge against peaceful pro-democracy protesters.
He was there.
He was there, and he wrote an eyewitness account, but he felt that when the Times published his version, they muted the necessary force and, well, the emotional impact.
So the classic story, if you want the truth told properly.
You start your own paper.
Yeah.
Taylor gathered this group called the Little Circle, nonconformist liberals, people like the preacher John Brotherton and later the politician Absalom Watkins.
And they launched the Manchester Guardian, May 5th, 1821, with only a £150. That's not a lot of capital.
No, not at all. It started as a weekly, and get this, the front page was strictly advertisements, which, was key to their early funding.
Makes sense.
But the sensation was the information they dared to print inside. They published raw statistical tables detailing attendance at local schools.
Okay, so why was publishing data on schools so radical back in 1821?
Well, it was basically accountability journalism in its infancy. The data they published showed that the government's figures on education were, frankly, drastically understated. It revealed the shocking extent of child labor.
Yep.
I mean, countless children work all week long and could only attend Sunday school.
Right.
And it simultaneously exposed how the church was sort of financially benefiting from this very minimal commitment to education. So the Guardian published this data and basically said, we're going to fight for change.
And Taylor immediately laid down the paper's principles, fighting for civil and religious liberty, supporting reform, promoting just principles of political economy.
And that reformist stance, it was immediately successful. Circulation quickly tripled from about 1,000 to 3,000 copies weekly by 1825. But this is where the story gets a bit more complicated, right? Because Taylor wasn't just a rigid ideologue.
Yeah, this really highlights that tension, doesn't it, between sort of pure idealism and the economic realities of the time. Taylor actually alienated some of his liberal supporters when he refused to fully back the campaign to reduce child labor in the textile mills.
Yes. He argued, and it sounds quite brutal now, that while child labor was terrible, opposing it risked leaving those children with absolutely no means of support. So in his view, it was better than starvation. It just demonstrates the complexity of early industrial reform. They were reformers, definitely, but grounded in a certain financial pragmatism.
And you could argue that pragmatism helped them grow. That early financial footing let them take advantage when the government started rolling back the so-called taxes on knowledge.
Exactly.
Right.
The removal of that mandatory stamp duty in 1836 allowed them to become semi-weekly.
Right. 2 times a week.
And then, when all those press taxes were finally abolished in 1855, the Guardian finally became a daily paper.
Okay, so moving into the mid-19th century now. After Taylor's death, the paper kept innovating. Jeremiah Garnett took over, expanded coverage to international issues. Irish famine was a big one.
And medical breakthroughs, too, like using ether in surgery. But the really legendary story of innovation that takes place during the Franco-Prussian War in 1870.
Yes, this is the Moths of Metz story we mentioned at the start. Their correspondent, G.T. Robinson, was trapped. The city of Metz was under siege.
Communication totally cut off. I mean, effectively censoring the news.
So his solution, it was spectacular, wasn't it?
It really was. He paid local people to create these small paper balloons. He then launched them with his dispatches tucked inside, just hoping the wind would carry them over the Prussian lines.
Incredible. They were famously known as papillons de Metz, moths of Metz.
Moths of Metz.
Can you even imagine the frustration and just the pure audacity relying on a gust of wind to deliver the story of a lifetime? Robinson even joked he was given the title of Great Aerostatic Chief for his efforts.
It just embodies their whole ethos, doesn't it? The news must get out, whatever the technological hurdle.
That commitment to the story, it really solidified when Charles Prestwich Scott was hired in 1871.
C.P. Scott, yes. By 1872, he becomes editor-in-chief at just 25 years old.
25.
And he held that role for a monumental 57 years. He is the figure who really transformed the paper from just a regional voice into a national leader.
And he modernized the look too, right? Introduced the first engravings, portraits, maps in 1886.
Yep. And eventually hired the first staff photographer in 1908. He understood that delivering hard news needed strong visual context as well.
What's fascinating, I think, is how he used these strong, consistent policy positions, protesting the South African War, supporting women's suffrage to build influence.
Yeah, he wasn't just reporting the news, he was actively participating in shaping the national conversation. He cultivated relationships with major figures, George Bernard Shaw, Florence Nightingale, even Winston Churchill.
And Scott himself even served as a member of Parliament for a while.
He did, which brings us to the era that truly cemented the Guardian's legacy. In 1907, Scott resigned from politics and did something huge. He bought the entire paper, £240,000.
Wow.
Dedicating himself completely to its independent operation.
And that total commitment led to, well, the paper's defining manifesto, didn't it?
Absolutely. For the centenary in 1921, Scott wrote this essay, 100 Years, and it contained that immortal mantra that, every journalism student learns. Commentary is free, but facts are sacred.
Such a powerful line.
And he added, one of the virtues of a newspaper, and perhaps the most important, is its independence.
That concept, independence, prioritizing the mission over private profit, that's what led to maybe the most radical innovation in media ownership ever, the Scott Trust.
Exactly. After C.P. Scott's death, his son, John Scott, established the Scott Trust in 1936. This was a really pioneering legal structure, designed specifically to protect the paper from market forces and, crucially, from tax laws that threatened its financial survival.
Okay, so the Scott Trust isn't just like a mission statement on the wall, it's a legal firewall. How does that practically work? How does it make the Guardian sort of immune from the threats facing most other shareholder-owned media today?
Well, it secures their long-term health because it removes the pressure for quarterly profits. The key legal clause mandates that the paper must be run forever on Scott's principles: honesty, integrity, courage.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. All surplus profits must be reinvested back into improving the quality of the journalism and securing its financial foundation.
So no dividends to owners or shareholders?
None. That means they can take massive journalistic risks, expensive projects, long investigations, knowing the CEO isn't sweating about a dip in the stock price the next day. That freedom is their profit, in a way.
Right. Okay, so moving into the more modern era, let's talk part 4. We see those principles tested again, this time by global conflict, World War II.
Yeah, under editor William Percival Crozier, the paper literally survived German bombing raids. Their Manchester office was a target.
And of course, they had to battle wartime censorship constantly.
Oh, definitely. They faced this huge challenge in 1940. The entire London print run, 5,500 copies, was seized by the government. Why? Because a photo of bombed Kew Gardens was deemed likely to lower morale.
Wow. Just shows the tension. The press was vital, but always under scrutiny.
Absolutely. But despite those constraints, the visual evolution continued. Remember, for 130 years, that front page was only ads.
Right, just ads.
Then in February 1952, something changed. King George VI died, and the paper finally put breaking news on the front page.
That must have been a huge shift visually, editorially.
A tectonic shift in presentation.
Right.
Yeah. And then 7 years later, 1959, they officially became The Guardian, dropping the Manchester to reflect their truly national reach.
Then they moved the main office to London in 1964, and that came with its own slightly humorous growing pains.
Ah, yes. The infamous Graniad era. New printing methods they adopted in the capital led to this, well, plague of typographical errors, typos everywhere.
So the satirical magazine Private Eye jumped on it.
Oh, they had a field day. They famously nicknamed the paper the Graniad.
That nickname, thankfully, it's mostly just a nostalgic joke now, right?
Mostly, yeah. But it does speak to the challenges of scaling up, changing your infrastructure. But the paper kept innovating in print. Under editor Peter Preston, in 1992, he introduced the tabloid format supplement G2.
Okay, so why was splitting the paper like that, having the serious main paper and then this lighter, wittier supplement, why was that such a big deal for the industry?
Well, it was a really clever way to segment the audience and the content without deleting the core brand, the core mission.
Ah,
The main section kept its serious, authoritative tone, national, international politics investigations. While G2 could handle arts, lifestyle, lighter features, it helped draw in maybe younger readers without alienating the old guard.
and that idea was quickly copied by rivals, wasn't it?
Almost immediately, yeah, worldwide. Then, of course, came the big one, Pivot. Guardian Unlimited, which we now know as the Guardian.com, launched way back in 1999.
Pretty early adopter.
Very early. And by 2014, the digital readership was just astronomical, nearly 100 million people globally, which contrasted sharply, of course, with the falling print circulation. That was down to about 148,000 copies by 2018.
But this digital focus, backed by the Scott Trust's financial security, it allowed them to take these expensive, almost prestige risks in print too, like the change to the Berliner format in 2005.
Oh yeah, the Berliner, that's that sort of sophisticated middle ground size, right? Smaller than a broadsheet, bigger than a standard tabloid, visually appealing.
But it cost a fortune, something like $80 million for new color presses.
That kind of spending. It's almost unthinkable for a newspaper trying to maximize shareholder returns, especially then. It was the trust shielding them, allowing that investment.
Though they did eventually shift to the cheaper tabloid size in 2018 for cost reasons.
They did. But that initial Berliner investment really demonstrated their commitment to journalistic presentation,
Yeah.
sort of regardless of the immediate cost-benefit analysis.
And their commitment to public service journalism, that core principle, it keeps earning global recognition. In 2014, they won the Pulitzer Prize for public service.
The highest American journalism honor.
Exactly, for their reporting on those highly sensitive documents revealed by Edward Snowden about NSA surveillance.
A huge moment in modern journalism. And it really demonstrated the trust's value in supporting that kind of high-stakes, potentially controversial investigative reporting.
And today, the paper is led by its first female editor-in-chief, Catherine Viner. She took over in 2015, continuing that legacy of adaptation and fierce independence. So when you trace this whole 187-year history, you realize the Guardian's survival isn't just luck. It's this, synthesis, isn't it? Continuous adaptation from literal air balloons to the internet.
Right.
A deep commitment to editorial integrity, cemented by Scott's mantra.
Facts are sacred.
And maybe most importantly, that radical protective financial structure, the Scott Trust.
Absolutely. Alan Rusbridger, the former editor, he summed up its enduring purpose perfectly. He said the trust was created to secure the eternity of the Guardian and protect its independence in all situations, at all costs, and against all comers.
Wow, eternity of the Guardian.
It's powerful language, and that unique legal philanthropy is precisely why the newspaper remains so fiercely independent today, even with all the pressures.
So, given those intense financial pressures facing all media in the digital age, you know, the drop in ad revenue, the struggle with subscription models, what does this story tell us? What does it mean for the industry?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does the Scott Trust model this legal structure that deliberately places independence above profit? Does it represent maybe the only sustainable path forward for truly quality investigative journalism on a global scale? It's a fundamental question, I think, for all of us to consider as we consume news today. Thank you for joining us for this Media History podcast.
We really hope you enjoyed tracing the incredible journey of this enduring press watchdog.
Join us for the next Media History podcast, coming soon.
See you soon.
And stay curious.